This is just a brief demonstration of the health and safety management system. I'll try to keep it brief because it's quite an extensive system. So I'll show you the basics of it. And if you need more detail, you can contact me and we can go into depth on any of the sections that you see today. This is the main screen. As you can see towards the bottom, there's a message section where administrators can write messages and leave them for employees when they access the system. Towards the top here, you can see different sections: risk management, accident and incidents, safety roles, administration, and so forth. We'll work through those briefly, just to give you an idea of how the system works. We click on risk management to begin with. That gives us 7 specific types of risk assessment and 1 general. The general risk assessment, if I click on that, that takes us to the risk assessment page here. It shows you which risk assessments are overdue by their review date over here. And if we want to create a new assessment, click on the button. And there's the username. And we log in. Logins are required for various points on the system, and that's to make sure that only authorized users get to each particular part of it. So risk assessors can get into this part, training administrators can get into other parts, and so forth. So when you go into risk assessment, this is the general one, you get a blank page in front of you. In order to start the assessment, click the little yellow plus to the top left. That comes up with some basic information. When you save the document, it auto-generates an ID here. In this case, it's number 4. False name in there. But once you've entered those basic details in that top section, you can click these buttons down to the left for hazards. You can enter a hazard in there. Just put hazard for the time being. Hazards. And as you can see, as you enter the first line, it generates a second line for you. And it does that dynamically. It will keep doing that for as many hazards as you require. Just put more hazards. And then there'll be safety measures associated with each of the risk assessments as well. So you put a measure in place, and that too generates another line each time you enter some text. For corrective actions, is the last part, you can put who is responsible, corrective action, the date that it's due to be done, and the actual date that it gets done, so you can track your dates. And then save all that with the icon at the top left. So if we go back to risk management, as I mentioned, there are some specific types. For example, if we have a look at fire, again, overdue, there's none overdue in there at the moment, but they would appear. Enter a new assessment, log in again, it might be different assessors. Log into that. And that takes us again to a blank page, but you can start it with the yellow button. And that gives you same sort of details on the top, but it gives you some fire-specific details as well, such as construction type of the building, sources of ignition, combustible materials, dangerous substances, those sort of things. A little bit more specific than the general one, so it gives you some guidance. You can go to general notes. It gives you quite a bit of space for general notes in there. And corrective actions is similar to what we saw on the general. That will generate more lines as we go. Save that. And there we have it. So those assessments that we've got in that section have hazardous substances, display screen equipment, working at height, fire risk, noise, environmental risk, manual handling, and as we saw, the general one. Go back to the beginning. we can have a look at accidents and incidents. This has been set up so anyone can report an accident, but it's only specific people who've been authorised who can investigate accidents. So I'll show you the difference. If you report an accident, it takes you to the blank page, you click the yellow button, and it gives you all the basics that you would see on the HSE's accident report form. And that again auto-generates an ID when you go into it. If you put a first name in there, just for the sake of argument, for the time being, Bill. Then if we save that, and we go back to accidents, if we go to investigate an accident, need to log in yet again. And if I search for the ID that we just saw for Bill, it comes up with Bill there. Now it gives you some basic information over here on the bottom right for the Health and Safety Department, for who's doing the investigation, their surname, their password, so that only they can enter the details, so you know who's doing it. So as we type the ID in at the top that we just saw, we see Bill, who we just put the name in for, has appeared there. To the bottom right, you can see Health and Safety Department information, the name of the person inputting the accident investigation, and their password, so that we know that it's the right person who's doing the investigation. We can confirm that. There's some basic questions, but also there's a notes and conclusions section for information that the system offers, for example, safety rules. In any business, there's going to be fire marshals, risk assessors, and so forth. And if anyone needs to track down who they are, let's have a look at, say, fire marshals, then the system can tell who it is. The administrators enter this data in the administration section. That's where it draws that from. But yeah, it can give you lists of all these different types: accident investigators, administrators, and so forth. If your particular business needs a different type of assessor or role, then we can incorporate that for you. All it takes is just notify us, and maybe an email or two will get that sorted out for you. Or arguably we could put in a general section as well for you. If we go back to the home button, we can see administration. I'll put the username in, let's put the and password in. And that gives you areas where you can create messages, create administrators, create risk assessors, fire marshals, all of those roles that we just saw. So the administrator has quite an important role in this. It's quite a key one, but it helps to control the system. Oops. Training section. Again, if we go to enter new training, it requires a login, because you don't want just anyone entering training on your system. So put a short login for this. Then we go to the training page again. Just start that with a plus on the yellow. And you can enter as many details as you like on that. For any business, it would be the employee's name, surname as a minimum. And then it gives, similar to the corrective actions boxes before, you can enter as many training aspects as you require. And it will generate another line each time. And we can save that. And it generates IDs as well. It's fairly basic, but at the same time fairly powerful. It gives you one resource area to control all of your health and safety qualifications for each member of staff. Click on Register of Regulations, and the administrators can enter these, or authorised members of staff can. And there you have just a couple of regulations that are applicable in the UK. But that again can expand to as many as you want. there's a permit to work system, which can be useful for well, some basic permits that are applicable in the workplace, new hot permits, electrical permits, and a general permit to work. If you need something more specific, then we can again include that within the price for you. All that takes, as we said before, is just probably a couple of emails and a form example, and we can enter that in. This is just an example of a hot permit to work. Gives you some checkboxes, and as usual with these, you can enter details. Safety tour area, there's some fairly basic things in there. We enter a new safety tool for the office. Yellow plus button again, and it just gives you some fairly standard questions, and it gives you again corrective actions, and you can include as many of those as you like in the safety tool. In a nutshell, that's the system. If you have questions, or if you'd like to see more detail on any of the sections that you've seen, or more details perhaps if you're more interested in hazardous substances, we can do that. Also, if you just want a complete tour of the system that you can examine more closely at your leisure, then we can provide a longer video, and we'll get that sorted out as required. But in the meantime, let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this looks like it will be useful for you. Thank you.